Country Mart Co-op. You can count on your Country Mart Co-op. And in part by Ford New Holland, dedicated to providing quality products, parts, and service. And agriculture's commodity groups, including the Ohio Corn Marketing Program, promoters of corn-based ethanol, the clean air fuel.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Agri-Country. On today's program, Ed will take you back a few years to Union Tools. You'll learn how hand tools are made. I'll visit with John Garwood about ice safety on farm ponds. And you'll meet Dr. Bill Anderson, the director of the Agriculture Technical Institute, better known as ATI. Agri-Country begins in Lansing, Michigan at the Pig Pit Restaurant. I'll visit with Steve Rose, the owner, and also Sam Hines, the executive vice president of the Michigan Pork Producers. Steve, quite a unique story. In 1989, you opened the doors to the Pig Pit Restaurant, and it's quite a story because you yourself are a pork producer. Why did you get in the restaurant business?
Well, I thought that pork was a very much misunderstood product for the restaurant menu. A lot of restaurants serve pork, but primarily as breakfast items. We felt like pork had a real future, more as a lunch and as a dinner feature. So we decided to do something nobody else had done, and to feature pork in for those kind of meals.
What type of response are you getting from the consumers walking through the door?
I think a lot of people think pork is very flavorful, but in the past they've felt that it was just too fatty. There's been some fear that maybe that pork had to be cooked so long that it was very tough. They just really had some misconceptions about what pork really was.
You have a very diverse menu, but let's talk about the pork entrees. What are some of your specialties?
Well, the name of our place is called the Pig Pit Barbecue, and it's a barbecue restaurant. You go down south, even some of the western states, there's a lot of barbecue restaurants. Up in the north, there's not been very many restaurants that feature barbecue, and we wanted to be one of the first.
What would be your most popular entree?
We do a barbecue pork sandwich. We call it a pulled pork sandwich, and it's made from the pork shoulder, and the meat is cooked and virtually pulled apart by hand, and it's a shredded pork barbecue sandwich. It's really good. That's our most popular item.
I mentioned earlier in the interview, you yourself, you are a pork producer. Do you market your own pork through the restaurant?
Well, we tried to do that originally. That was our original intent, and we worked with a small packing plant. We butchered some of our own pigs. We really had some problems doing that. They all had to be federally inspected, of course, and there was so many products that we couldn't sell enough of, others that we needed more of. It just didn't seem to work very well.
Sam, February 4th, 5th, and 6th in Lansing, Michigan, the Michigan Pork Congress will be taking place. How big of a pork-producing state would Michigan be?
Well, Michigan is kind of an interesting story. As early as a couple of decades ago, there were only about 800,000 hogs raised in the entire state. And currently, we rank 11th among the states. We've moved up to about 2.5 million hogs produced annually. So it is a significant agricultural entity here in the state.
Let's take a look at the Michigan Pork Congress, some of the key things taking place. Once again, we're going to see a trade show.
Well, that's, of course, as always, the trade show is the main attraction. Producers can come and see a wide variety of different types and brands of equipment of all kinds. Anything you need for producing pork will be available at the trade show. And we have more than 100 companies that are coming in and will be exhibiting in over 200 different booths. So that's the featured attraction. We also have some educational activities, and one of the key educational events is the Professional Swine Producers Symposium, which takes place on February 4th, just before the opening of the trade show on the 5th and 6th.
What would the theme of that symposium be this year?
Well, the theme of this year's symposium is selecting breeding programs and genetics for leanness and profitability. We need to continue to make significant progress in raising even leaner hogs than we currently are if we want to continue building demand and providing the type of product that will be desirable in a restaurant atmosphere such as the Pig Pit here.
Tying the Congress, so there's something for everyone. You're also going to have a Taste of Elegance competition.
Oh, that's been a fantastic event for us for the last, this will be the 4th year, I guess. And we'll have 15 of the very finest white tablecloth restaurants in the entire state competing for $1,000 and the title of developer of the best boneless pork entree of the year.
Mark your calendars, February 4, 5, and 6 in Lansing, Michigan, the Michigan Pork Congress. Once again, I've been visiting with Sam Hines, the Executive Vice President of the Michigan Pork Producers, and Steve Rose of the Pork Pit Restaurant. Hope you'll stay tuned. More of Agri-Country coming your way right after this.
Efficiency, don't forget the RAP. R-A-P, rumen available protein from your Country Mart Co-op. Dairy Pro RAP has what it takes for increased milk production. Its unique formula has made believers of dairymen over the past year, and today, increased milk production is essential. For a better bottom line, get Dairy Pro RAP from your Country Mart Co-op. See your Country Mart Co-op feed specialist today.
Agri-Country takes us now to Columbus, Ohio, to Union Tools. Ed's going to visit with Harold Bauer, the advertising manager, and also Bill Taylor, plant supervisor.
It says out on the front, Union Fork and Hoe. We're talking about a company that's like 100 years old.
Yeah, we'd be 100 years old this year. In 1890, George Britton Durrell started the company. And then this was a consolidation of different companies up here, and it was incorporated as a Union Fork and Hoe company in 1907.
We're here in Columbus, but there are other plants.
We got a plant in Frankfort, New York. We have handle mill plants in Delaware and Frankfort, and 6 other sawmill plants throughout Appalachia.
And so the merger then came the name Union Fork and Hoe.
Right.
But just a few months ago, now just Union Tools.
Yeah, we've changed the name to Union Tools here to have a broader base. We make a lot more things now than forks and hoes.
Before we start with what happens in this plant, let's go to Delaware, because there's where we find a sawmill and a handle plant.
Yeah, we actually cut the slabs into dowels up there, and then we also make the handles. We can do about 24,000 handles a day up there. Usually have about 1 million handles in process up there.
Harold, I've always heard that you just can't beat ash for a good handle when it comes for tools for lawn and garden. Still the case today?
That's still the case. There's nothing comes close to ash. It's light, flexible. There's a lot of spring to it.
Plenty of suppliers. Ash hard to come by.
It's still a tight supply, but almost all of our tools still have ash handles.
Bill, the day that we're here, you're making rakes. When we went back there and we see a slab of steel.
We get in a bar of steel. We put it in a forging furnace, which is heated up to about 1,800 degrees. It's put into a blanking press where we have a die that comes down and blanks the rake head
out. So
when
we'd see that big press come down, there'd be a stamp out what's going to be a rake, and then he'd slip it a little farther and stamp another one.
That's right.
How many of those would they stamp out, say, then an hour?
One rake press crew will run about 6,000 a day in an 8-hour shift.
So then the next process that we saw was different again.
Right. The next process is bowl rolling, where we take the end blank, it's heated and it's rolled out, kind of formed and stretched out to make one long bow.
So now we have what looks kind of a weird-looking rake, but what impresses me, Bill, that this steel gets heated a number of times before there's ever the finished product.
Right. It goes through 5 different heating processes in the forge shop before it comes out ready to be driven on a handle.
So the next one we're going to see with the rake is what?
The next step you're going to see is bow forming and twisting the bows and making one bow out of it.
Works pretty slick, then it just slips it in there and wraps it up.
That's right. Then it's hit and poked a nail hole in it where when we drive it on the handle, we'll put a nail in it.
Then we saw what step?
The concave. The next step is where you actually see the teeth being formed in the normal rake that you see every day.
Watching these people at their various machines, would they stay at the same machine, Bill, day after day, or do they trade off?
They do trade off somewhat. We try to give our employees flexibility so they don't get bored staying on one job all the time.
And there is an incentive because they do work by piecework.
Yes, there is. It's a piecework system. We require them to produce so many pieces per hour. Anything they produce over and above that, they're paid a bonus system for.
Back in the steel part of the plant, how many rakes might you do, or how many hoes might the fellows stamp out in a day's time?
Well, on the rake press, each crew will run about 6,000 rakes a day. On the hoe rollers, the guys that roll out the hose and form the hose, they'll do about 1,000 to 1,200 in an 8-hour shift.
We saw the fellows working on a hoe. What size hoe?
That was an 8-inch hoe, an 8-inch socket hoe.
I think we should also explain, Bill, that when we talk about Union Tools, that you do not manufacture the entire line here at Columbus.
No, we have another manufacturing facility in Frankfort, New York. They do most of the pitchforks, clam diggers, shovels, things like that. We do most of the rakes and hoes at this plant.
When we saw him stamping the hoe, there was some leftover steel. Can you fellows use that at all?
No, we don't use that. We sell that to scrap dealers, and it's reprocessed back through again.
Then we saw, and I want you to introduce this dear gentleman. He has been with you for years and years. He's what you call your edger, or what I would call the fellow who does the sharpening.
Right. That employee, Bob Shallard's been with the Union Tool Company for 46 years. He edges all the hoes, has for years, does a fantastic job.
And he was working on a different piece today than we saw out.